What if I told you that YouTube, the platform that billions of people open every single day, wasn't supposed to exist? The website that created millions of careers, gave ordinary people a global stage, and completely changed entertainment, education, business, and media, actually began as a complete failure. Not because of competition, not because of technology, but because almost nobody wanted to use it. In 2005, 3 former PayPal employees believed they had discovered the next billion-dollar idea. Their vision was simple: build an online dating website where people could upload videos of themselves instead of photos. It sounded revolutionary. They invested months of work, launched the platform with high hopes, and waited for the internet to respond. But it never did. Days passed without uploads. Weeks went by with almost no users. At one point, they even offered strangers money just to post videos. Nothing worked. The startup was running out of time, running out of money, and quietly moving toward failure. For most entrepreneurs, that would have been the end of the story. But sometimes, the biggest companies in history aren't built because their original idea succeeds. They're built because someone notices what everyone else ignores. While the founders desperately tried to make YouTube a dating website, something unexpected was happening in the background. A handful of users had started uploading random clips, family moments, comedy videos, skateboarding tricks, pets, and everyday life. They weren't looking for dates. They were using the platform in a completely different way. That small, almost invisible change would trigger one of the greatest business pivots in internet history. What happened next would reshape the digital world forever. This tiny startup would survive bankruptcy, outsmart some of the biggest technology companies on Earth, overcome billion-dollar copyright battles, convince Google to make one of the most legendary acquisitions in Silicon Valley history, and eventually build an ecosystem that now reaches more than 2 billion people every month. Today, YouTube is no longer just a website. It is the foundation of the creator economy, a global business empire, and one of the most influential platforms ever created. But none of it was part of the original plan. So how did a failed dating website become the platform that changed the internet forever? To answer that question, we have to go back to a small coffee shop outside PayPal's headquarters, where 3 ambitious friends first began dreaming about changing the world. Before YouTube became the world's largest video platform, before billions of people watch videos every single day, before ordinary creators turned into global celebrities, there were simply 3 young men with an ambitious dream. Chen, Chad Hurley, and Karim weren't born into wealthy families, nor did they begin their journey with a revolutionary invention. They were ordinary employees working inside PayPal during the early days of Silicon Valley, surrounded by entrepreneurs who believed that the internet was only beginning to reveal its true potential. Every day, they watched technology reshape industries, create billion-dollar companies, and solve problems that had once seemed impossible. Deep inside, they all shared the same ambition. They didn't want to spend their lives helping someone else build history. They wanted to create history themselves. After long days at PayPal, the 3 friends often met at a small coffee shop near the company's headquarters. Those meetings were informal, but they became the birthplace of something extraordinary. They talked endlessly about the future of the internet, new business opportunities, and how ordinary ideas were becoming billion-dollar companies almost overnight. The early 2000s felt like the beginning of a digital gold rush. Google was changing how people search for information. Amazon was quietly reinventing shopping. eBay had already proven that complete strangers could trust each other enough to buy and sell online. Every successful startup sent the same message to ambitious young entrepreneurs. The next great internet company could be created by anyone with the right idea. Steve, Chad, and became obsessed with finding that idea before someone else did. Everything changed in 2002 when eBay acquired PayPal for approximately $1.5 billion. For many employees, it was a dream exit. Financially, it was a massive success. But inside the company, the atmosphere slowly began to change. The fast-moving startup culture that had attracted so many talented people started disappearing beneath layers of corporate management and bureaucracy. The excitement that once fueled innovation was fading. Steve eventually left the company. Jawed returned to complete his university education. Chad began working independently as a design consultant. From the outside, it looked as though their journey together had ended. But despite moving in different directions, one thing never changed. They remained close friends and continued searching for the opportunity that could change their lives forever. In early 2005, their attention was captured by a rapidly growing website called Hot or Not. Its concept was surprisingly simple. People uploaded photographs of themselves, and strangers rated their appearance. Millions of users found the idea entertaining, but Steve, Chad, and Jaw believed the concept had much greater potential. A photograph could show what someone looked like, but a video could reveal their personality, their confidence, and the way they spoke. They imagined a platform where people could introduce themselves through short videos instead of static pictures, creating a more personal and authentic way to meet others online. It felt like the perfect business opportunity, and without wasting time, they decided to build it. On Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2005, they officially registered the domain name YouTube.com. Even the date reflected their original vision. Contrary to what billions of people believe today, YouTube was never intended to become the world's biggest video platform. It wasn't created for entertainment, education, gaming, business, or content creators. It was designed to become a video-based dating website where people could connect through personal introductions. The company's first slogan captured that vision perfectly. Tune in, hook up. Looking back today, it almost sounds impossible that one of the most influential companies in internet history began with such a completely different purpose. For the next several months, the founders worked almost non-stop. Steve focused on building the platform's technical foundation. Chad crafted a clean and simple user experience that anyone could understand. Jaw tested features and refined the product, making sure everything worked smoothly before launch. There were no guarantees of success, no major investors waiting with unlimited funding, and no certainty that anyone would even use their product. What kept them moving forward was belief. They genuinely believed they had discovered the future of online dating. Finally, in April 2005, YouTube entered public beta, and the founders waited for users to arrive. They imagined thousands of people uploading introduction videos, meeting strangers, and creating meaningful relationships through a completely new online experience. Instead, something unexpected happened. Almost nobody used it. Entire days passed without meaningful uploads. The dating platform they had spent months building felt like an empty digital city. As the silence continued, panic slowly replaced excitement. In a desperate attempt to attract users, the founders even offered women money through Craigslist simply to upload dating videos. Even that strategy failed. Their servers still generated bills. Their savings continued shrinking. Time was running out. And for the first time, the three founders were forced to confront a painful possibility. Perhaps YouTube wasn't going to become the next billion-dollar startup. Perhaps it was simply another failed Silicon Valley experiment waiting to disappear forever. But while the founders were desperately trying to make people use YouTube as a dating website, a handful of users had quietly started using it for something completely different. That unexpected behavior seemed insignificant at first, but was about to become the single most important turning point in YouTube's history. Most startup founders spend years trying to convince the world that their product is perfect. Steve, Chen, Chad, Hurley, and Karim found themselves facing a much harsher reality. The product they believed would revolutionize online dating had failed almost immediately. Days passed without meaningful activity, and the platform remained eerily quiet. Every login filled them with hope, and every empty homepage brought another wave of disappointment. They had solved the technical challenges, built a clean user experience, and launched exactly what they had imagined. The problem wasn't the platform. The problem was that people simply didn't want to use it the way the founders had expected. For any startup, this is one of the most dangerous moments in its life. Entrepreneurs often become emotionally attached to their original idea. They spend months or even years perfecting a vision, believing that if they just work harder, customers will eventually understand it. But history repeatedly shows that markets don't reward passion. They reward value. The founders of YouTube were about to learn one of the greatest lessons in business. Customers decide what your product becomes, not you. Then something unusual began happening. Although almost nobody was uploading dating videos, a small number of users started sharing completely different kinds of content. Someone uploaded a short clip from a family gathering. Another shared a funny home video. Others posted skateboarding tricks, pets, comedy moments, and random recordings stored on old digital cameras. None of these videos had anything to do with dating. They weren't following the founders' vision at all. Yet, strangely enough, these were the only uploads appearing on the platform. At first, the founders dismissed it as random behavior. Surely people would eventually start using YouTube for its intended purpose. But the opposite happened. The number of personal dating videos remained close to zero, while ordinary videos slowly began increasing. Every new upload sent the same message. Users weren't interested in finding relationships. They were looking for the easiest way to upload, store, and share videos online. That discovery changed everything. Instead of fighting their users, the founders made a decision that would become one of the greatest business pivots in internet history. They stopped asking, how do we make people use YouTube as a dating website? And started asking a far more important question. What are people already using YouTube for? The difference between those two questions may seem small, but it separated failure from extraordinary success. Rather than forcing customers to adapt to their product, Steve, Chad, and Jawed adapted the product to their customers. Almost overnight, YouTube abandoned its dating identity. The search options for men and women quietly disappeared. The slogan, "Tune in, hook up," lost its meaning. Instead, YouTube transformed into something far more powerful, a platform where anyone could upload almost any video and instantly share it with the world. Today, that decision sounds obvious. In 2005, it was incredibly risky. The online video industry was already crowded with failed companies. For years, entrepreneurs had tried building video sharing websites, only to discover that the business was financially brutal. Video files were enormous compared to photos. Storing them required expensive servers. Delivering them to thousands of users consumed massive amounts of bandwidth. Most websites either charged users money or limited uploads because they simply couldn't afford the infrastructure. Many investors believed online video was a terrible business. Steve Chen understood those challenges better than anyone, but he also understood something equally important. Technology was finally catching up with the idea. Instead of forcing users to download videos, YouTube relied on Adobe Flash Player, a browser technology that automatically converted different video formats into one standard format that almost anyone could watch. Videos loaded quickly, played directly inside the browser, and could be shared with nothing more than a simple link. Compared to every competitor at the time, the experience felt effortless. People didn't have to understand file formats. They didn't need expensive software. They didn't even need technical knowledge. They simply clicked and watched. It was one of those rare moments in business where simplicity became the biggest competitive advantage. As more users discovered how easy YouTube was to use, uploads began increasing every single day. The founders no longer cared whether the videos were professionally produced. In fact, the opposite became YouTube's greatest strength. The platform welcomed ordinary people doing ordinary things. Birthdays, school projects, travel memories, comedy sketches, music covers, pets, and homemade experiments all found a place on YouTube. Without realizing it, the founders had created something much bigger than a website. They had created a platform where anyone could become a creator. But explosive growth created an entirely new problem. Every new video uploaded to YouTube wasn't just another piece of content. It was another expense. Servers were filling up faster than anyone had predicted. Bandwidth costs were rising every single day, and the company still had no clear business model, no meaningful revenue, and very little money left. Ironically, the very thing that was saving YouTube was also pushing it closer to bankruptcy. And within months, the founders would face a terrifying question that threatened to destroy everything they had built. How do you save a company that's becoming more successful every single day, while losing more money every single day? The pivot had worked. For the first time since YouTube's launch, people were actually using the platform exactly the way they wanted to. Every day, more users uploaded family memories, funny moments, homemade videos, sports clips, and personal recordings. The website that had once felt completely empty was suddenly alive with activity. Traffic began increasing at a pace the founders had never imagined. It looked like success had finally arrived. But behind the scenes, YouTube was facing a problem so dangerous that every new visitor actually brought the company one step closer to collapse. Unlike text or photographs, videos were incredibly expensive to store and deliver over the internet in 2005. Every upload required storage space. Every view consumed bandwidth. Every second someone watched a video increased YouTube's operating costs. The platform wasn't just growing, it was burning money at an alarming rate. Ironically, the more successful YouTube became, the faster it was running out of cash. It was one of the strangest business models in Silicon Valley. Success itself had become the company's biggest financial problem. In the early days, Steve Chen had signed a hosting agreement with a company called MrBeast. The deal sounded almost too good to be true. For a relatively small monthly payment, YouTube received what was advertised as unlimited bandwidth. For a tiny startup with only a handful of users, it seemed like the perfect solution. But no one, not even the founders themselves, expected YouTube's growth to explode so quickly. As thousands of new users flooded the platform, MrBeast quickly realized that unlimited was no longer sustainable. The company informed YouTube that the original agreement could no longer continue. From that point onward, bandwidth would be charged based on actual usage. Suddenly, Steve's credit card began receiving bills worth thousands of dollars every month. Those costs kept increasing with every viral video, every new user, and every additional upload. This created a terrifying paradox. Most startups dream of rapid user growth because more users usually mean more revenue. But YouTube had no real business model. There were no subscription fees, no premium memberships, and no advertising system capable of covering its expenses. Every person who visited the website loved the product, but contributed almost nothing to its survival. The founders had successfully solved one problem by finding product market fit. Now they faced an even bigger one. How do you build a company when your customers generate costs instead of profits? Yet the internet didn't seem to care about YouTube's financial struggles. As more videos appeared online, people started sharing them with friends through blogs, emails, and one of the biggest social networks of that era, MySpace. A funny clip discovered by one person could spread across the internet within hours. One family would share it with another. Bloggers embedded videos into their websites. Online communities passed links from one forum to another. Without spending millions on marketing, YouTube was experiencing something every startup dreams about, but very few ever achieve. Network effects. Every new user didn't simply consume content. They attracted more users. Every uploaded video created another reason for someone else to visit the platform. More viewers encouraged more creators to upload content. More creators produced more videos. More videos attracted even more viewers. The cycle repeated itself again and again, creating a self-reinforcing growth engine that became stronger with every passing week. This is one of the most powerful concepts in modern business. The world's most valuable digital platforms rarely grow because of advertising alone. They grow because every new customer makes the product more valuable for the next customer. Facebook became stronger as more people joined. Airbnb improved as more hosts listed properties. Uber became more useful as more drivers signed up. YouTube was unknowingly following the same path. Its users were building the platform's value themselves. But there was one major difference. Unlike Facebook or Airbnb, YouTube was still bleeding money at an unsustainable rate. By mid-2005, nearly 1 million people were visiting the website every single day. On the surface, it looked like one of Silicon Valley's fastest-growing startups. Investors admired its explosive growth. Technology blogs began talking about its potential. The founders had finally built something people genuinely loved. But inside the tiny office, reality looked very different. Revenue was almost non-existent. Hosting costs continued rising. Cash reserves were disappearing. Every passing month brought the company closer to bankruptcy. Steve, Chad, and Jani knew they couldn't survive much longer without outside investment. They had built an incredible product. But products alone don't keep companies alive. Businesses need capital. They need resources. And above all, they need people willing to believe in the future before the future actually exists. So the founders began walking into meeting after meeting with venture capital firms across Silicon Valley, carrying one simple dream. They weren't asking investors to fund a video sharing website. They were asking them to believe in the future of online video itself. The problem was, almost nobody did. Most investors loved YouTube's traffic numbers, but hated its business model. They couldn't see how a company that lost money every time someone watched a video could ever become profitable. To them, YouTube looked less like the next Google and more like an expensive experiment waiting to fail. The founders had built one of the fastest growing platforms on the internet. But unless someone was willing to take an enormous risk, YouTube's incredible story was about to end before the world had even begun to understand its true potential. The story of YouTube proves that the world's most successful companies are not always built on perfect ideas. They're built on the courage to recognize when an imperfect idea needs to change. Steve Chen, Chad Hurley, and Karim didn't become successful because their original vision worked. They became successful because they listened to their users, embraced failure, adapted faster than their competitors, and transformed a collapsing startup into one of the most influential platforms in human history. Today, YouTube is far more than a video sharing website. It has created millions of careers, built billion-dollar businesses, changed entertainment forever, and given ordinary people the power to reach a global audience with nothing more than an internet connection and a camera. If you enjoyed this documentary and learned something new about the incredible business journey behind YouTube, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next premium business documentary. Here, we uncover the hidden business strategies, startup stories, leadership decisions, luxury brands, technology giants, and billion-dollar companies that quietly shape our world. And now we'd love to hear from you. What do you think was the single biggest reason behind YouTube's success? The founders' decision to pivot, Google's acquisition, the creator economy, or YouTube's powerful business model? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because we read every comment, and your suggestion could inspire our next documentary.